In a galaxy like Star Wars, pilots are a must-have for any army wanting to achieve galactic domination through brute force. Luckily for the Republic, the clones they bred had quite an aptitude for flight, and thus their pilots were always the shining light in the Republic's most dark of times. With that said, not all pilots were cast into the spotlight and many of them remain unknown to us. In today's video, however, we're going to be combing through the forgotten frames of the Clone Wars to find a group of seemingly unknown clone pilots who deserve our recognition. Seeing as the pilot with, I have to say, the coolest armor I've ever seen is evidently part of an elite reconnaissance corps, one must assume that he was good. Although admittedly serving under the guise of Anakin Skywalker in his first and only appearance, the stealth pilot was visibly very experienced and seasoned in aerial warfare, making him the perfect co-pilot for the master himself.
Recloaking in 9, 8,
Fire!
6, 5. Pilot, prep the flares.
Too late to roll!
Launch flares. And cloak.
Although this clip was just a small glimpse into the battle, through the skill and expertise of Anakin and his unknown co-pilot, the team was eventually able to outmaneuver Admiral Trench and destroy his flagship, thus leading to the destruction of the entire Separatist blockade and some much needed relief for the troops stuck on Christosis. When the Republic learned that one of their key allies, Umbara, had seceded to the Separatists, they knew shit was about to go down. Unfortunately for the 501st and 212th, when it did, they were the first port of call, and the Republic ordered that they mobilize a small army in preparation for the assault of Umbara, a big part of this army of course being the gunship pilots tasked with the deliverance of the troops. As seen in the clip, despite the advanced Umbaran technology and extremely heavy flak coming the pilot's way, most if not all of them managed to touch the ground without a scratch. This as a result led the Republic to sustain a massive ground force, which as we know from watching the devastating Umbara arc, was desperately needed. Many of you are probably very familiar with the events of the Second Battle of Geonosis. After all, it was one of the most battle-intensive arcs we see throughout the Clone Wars show. A large part of the reason why it's so well known is because of the infamous aerial assault that, if not handled correctly by one particular unknown gunship pilot, could have ended up costing Anakin, Ahsoka, and a bunch of 501st clones their lives.
The flak is too heavy.
We're down! Repeat, down! Location 5! I just lost contact with Skywalker's team.
Come on, get up! We have to keep moving!
Here they come!
When a gunship takes heavy damage to the wing, in 90% of cases it's over for everyone, as the pilot seemingly can't maintain control and ends up plunging the ship into a wild and fiery descent. In the case of Anakin's pilot, however, he somehow manages to fight and win control over the ship, leading to the safest landing possible in an extremely dangerous situation as shown in the clip. Just to give you a comparison on what it could have looked like, we'll show you what happened when Obi-Wan's ship took almost the same amount of damage.
We're hit! We're going down! Ah! Brace yourselves!
The consequences, of course, were much more disastrous, as there were only 2 survivors. When General Grievous and the Separatists start gaining the upper hand in the dramatic space battle over Kenobi's hangar, Republic pilots begin falling in droves. Eventually, there are only 3 pilots remaining, 2 of them in a Y-Wing bomber and the other in a Z-95 starfighter, all trying to make it back to the safety of Kenobi's hangar. When escape isn't possible, however, these pilots don't go down without a fight. Although the Z-95 pilot ended up succumbing to the 10 or so Separatist ships behind him, we see in the clip that he is much more seasoned and skilled compared to that of your average pilot, and remains calm and measured up until his inevitable death. When the Y-Wing he was flying with eventually sustains heavy damage and symbolically crashes into the hangar, one of the pilots manages to miraculously survive and is hauled out the flaming wreckage onto safety, thus ensuring that the unknown Z-95 pilot's death was not in vain. In my opinion, the unnamed clone pilot that is taking this #1 spot could even rival Anakin with the amount of raw skill he possesses. When the Republic receive a distress signal from a Jedi strike team on Hypori requesting immediate evacuation from the devastating clutches of Legends Grievous, Captain Fordo and his team are sent in to save the day, their pilot of course being our unknown hero. Aside from performing some extremely dangerous yet skillful maneuvers to simply gain access to the place the Jedi team were trapped in, the pilot also single-handedly fights off Grievous in his trusty gunship and eventually evacuates the surviving Jedi along with his men, marking this almost suicidal mission as a success. Although I can't show the clip and audio combined because of instant copyright strikes from LucasArts, I'll show you the muted version of the clip and leave a link in the description below for all those who want to watch the scene in full. There's nothing much else that can be said about this pilot other than that he's hands down one of the best pilots we see throughout the Clone Wars. He not only manages to fly at top speed through an extremely hot zone into dense wreckage, but he also navigates that wreckage flawlessly and thus ensures everyone's survival. To add in a little fun fact for all those who don't know about the disastrous Battle of Hypori, there was a grand total of 99% casualties, with the only survivors being those who escaped on the lone gunship. Thanks for watching. As I always do with these top 5 videos, I've added a short montage of all the clips combined that will play very shortly. But just before that, don't forget to join the intergalactic community on our website, Instagram, and Discord for the latest memes and behind the scenes shots.